Hello and welcome to today's action-packed adventure as advertised. My name is Bronwen Aker, and I'm about to talk about why developers hate cybersecurity, Infosec, hackers, us, basically. We all know that developers hate cybersecurity, and the reasons why are very simple. First, we break their toys. Second, we call their babies ugly. Third, we blame them for the fact that their stuff is trash and we broke it. And then when we give them guidance, it is incomprehensible and arcane. Any of this sound like close to the ballpark? Maybe a little bit? All right. Now, how is it that I can say such horrible things? As you heard, I have a wee bit of experience in software development. I've done web, I've done desktop, I've done mobile. There's a lot of different languages that I've learned and forgotten. So I know a little bit about the software development process. And then in 2017, after I realized I was burned out and bored, I switched career paths to this cybersecurity thing. I had no idea what I was getting into. Talk about Alice in the rabbit hole. Oh, my Lord. Then in 2018, I hadn't been in this thing for very long. This guy named John Strand. I knew him courtesy of Sands, and he asked me to come to work for him. And in all sincerity, that is a gift I will never be able to repay, because working with BHIS, learning much more about the reality of cybersecurity has been a huge gift. And my role at BHIS is that I'm a technical editor. Now, that means that I get to read somewhere between 220 and 250 pen test reports per year. And I've been doing it for 4 years so far. So I've seen a lot of pen test reports. I've seen good ones, I've seen bad ones, I've seen mediocre ones. And I actually have also seen pen tests and edited pen test reports with other companies. So when I look at these, part of me is always looking at these reports with a developer's eye, a developer's soul, because of my experience before I made the switch from development to cybersecurity. And I guarantee you, every single pen test report I read does this to my heart at some point, because I know what it's like for the people who are on the receiving end. Now, there's good news and bad news. Always good news and bad news. The good news is that we can do better in what we present to our customers, what we say, and how we handle delivering the bad news to the people on the receiving ends of the reports. We can change what we do and how we do it. The bad news is we cannot fix our customers. We can't fix them. They have to make that choice. They have to take that initiative. So we have to fix ourselves. Now, this is where we have even more good news. When we change, everything changes. It's like math, it's like marriage. When you change one side of the equation, the whole dynamic is altered. So what's the goal? What is the purpose of me being here talking about this stuff? I want us to improve our relationships with developers. And I'm going to talk a little bit later on about some of the ways that we can do that. By improving our relationships with developers, we can help normalize good security practices. And once that happens, then we can make good security available for everyone, right? And then later on too, I'm going to talk a little bit about possible ways that might open up new revenue streams. I know that there's a lot of opportunity here that maybe we're not utilizing, and I'm trying to look for win-win scenarios. I'm trying to look for ways that we can win and they can win and everybody can be better together. So the problem, this is not a news update. We know that our relationships with business, with sales, with marketing, with other sections of information technology suck. But like I say, we can change. The first thing that we do, though, is we break developers' toys. Talked about that a moment ago. We write in. We do a pen test. It's what we're paid to do, right? We're supposed to go in and we're supposed to find vulnerabilities and flaws and issues and all of that happy joy stuff. And we do. And then we write out. On our way out, we leave a present. And it's this cryptic report that we leave as a going away present. That's where the incomprehensible and arcane comes into play. Problem is, people don't like it when their toys get borkin. Yes, the typo is deliberate. Has anyone in the room ever developed any of their own code? I mean, a bash script, a Python script. Show of hands. Come on, raise them high. Okay. Now, you know how much of yourselves you pour into that, right? And you invest that skull sweat, and you wake up in the middle of the night, go, oh, I should have used a double equals instead of a single equals, and it, you have this thing, you're pouring yourself into it. Now imagine that your entire life, 8 hours a day, 16 hours a day, day in and day out, is working with code. The other thing that we probably don't always think about is the fact that developers are often working with unreasonable timelines, insane deadlines, horribly unreasonable expectations. And, the other factor is that nowhere in any program that I know of, and I mean everything from Code Academy, Udemy, LinkedIn, whatever boot camp or online thing, they're not being taught security. They're being taught how to get it done, get it done, get it done, get it out the door. Because, time, money. So of course, they don't know how to make this stuff well enough to be safe from us. I mentioned we call their babies ugly. Well, I was just kind of touching on that. I'm going to use enumeration as a simple example of what I mean. Now, you, me, everybody in the room, we know that enumeration in an application of any kind is bad. They don't. What they see is a friendly user interface. What I see over and over again when I'm reading these pen test reports, I say, okay, the developer, the tester did this. They entered these exploits into the field and they got this back. And I'm looking at the behavior. I'm going, you know what? That interface is working exactly as it was intended to. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. And this is where I want to tell you a little bit about what happens when there's a development project. Are there any recovering developers in the room besides me? Okay, a few of you. All right. So this is not going to be news to you, but hopefully it'll be news to the rest of the crowd. So the way that software development works is that somebody has an idea. Ooh, I want to have this new whiz bang thing happen. It's going to be great. It's going to be phenomenal. And then that idea gets put into the hopper of whatever features and processes are going to be added into the software. And it goes through whatever internal mishmash thing happens, whether it's agile or whatever the trendy thing is today. And eventually this idea percolates up to the top and it gets added into the development streamline. Then a project manager gets a hold of it. And the project manager figures out, oh, I need to develop use cases and I need to figure out the workflow and the business logic. And if they're good, they will think about what happens when unexpected stuff comes in. But usually they don't. They design for success, not for failure. Because they don't realize, they're not taught that designing for failure is a good thing in addition to designing for success. They're looking at the golden path. And they expect that the people are going to follow the trail of breadcrumbs the way they lay them down. Yeah, we know better. Okay, so after the project manager has done all of this ooh-wah, wonderful stuff with the flow diagrams and all that, then it goes to a designer. And the designer, okay, this form field goes here, and here's the label, and this form field goes here, and here's a button, and here's a button, and these buttons are exactly this shade of puce. Yeah. After the design has been finalized and approved by everybody else who is a stakeholder, then and only then does it go to the actual person writing the code. And here's the other thing. Developers get docked, they get picked on, they get criticized if they do anything other than what they were told to do. This is the spec. Do not do anything beyond what the spec says. That's gold plating. That's adding additional stuff that wasn't asked for. I don't care if you think it's a good idea. It came through this whole huge process, and that's what they wanted, and that's all you're going to deliver. Does this sound familiar? Recovering developers, right? Okay. So we've gone through all of this stuff. They've gone through all of this stuff. They've built this. It behaves exactly as it's supposed to. We fly in and we crap all over it. Of course they hate us. You'd hate us too. All right. So that's just the beginning. Now, if we're doing that to things that have been built according to spec, then we have the other fact of, oh, you need to apply updates. How many people here live in terror of simple Microsoft Tuesdays? Now imagine that you're going in. Anyone here ever had as a recommendation, you need to update your old systems, right? Right? Nods. All right, good. Signs of life are good. Well, let me tell you a story. We're going to jump into our Wayback Machine. Back in, oh, that's not doing what it was supposed to do. Anyway, 2014. 2014, I was working in a cold fusion house. That means that it was a web development department working for a company, and the engine that did all of the middleware from the database out to the end user was Cold Fusion. And SSL support for the version of Cold Fusion we were using was about to end. This was a seriously bad thing because what had happened, you've heard of this company called Adobe. Adobe had bought, let's see, Cold Fusion. It was developed by Macromedia. Macromedia was bought by Aker, or maybe it was the other way around. It's been a long time. Anyway, eventually all of that was bought by Adobe, and Adobe had to Adobify it because that's what Adobe does. Anytime they gobble up a company and they have to make it all of this stuff, and they decided that we are no longer going to support anything pre-Adobe. And the company I worked for, their entire revenue stream came through their websites. And I'm talking multiple domains. I'm talking lots and lots of web applications. And basically, if we couldn't take online credit card processing, the company would go under because our revenue stream would stop. So this was a hard wall. And my boss, the CTO, he weighed and he measured and he went back and forth, and there was crying, there was tears, there was gnashing of teeth and pulling of hair. And the question was, do we go up just from Cold Fusion 7 to whatever the lowest level is that is supported next? Or do we bite the bullet and go all the way up to the highest version that is available now, which at the time was Cold Fusion 10? Well, my boss was a smart cookie. He knew who he was dealing with and what he was facing, and he knew he was not going to get an opportunity like this because there was no updating process in play at that company. So our entire department was put on the task of upgrading 3 whole integers of software. I'm talking tens of thousands of lines of code, multiple domains, multiple environments, databases. Actually, the primary database had millions of records, and these applications had to support hundreds of concurrent users. Yes, this was a nightmare. That is all the entire department, over 25 people, did for months. I still have PTSD. Could you tell? Yeah. So we did all of that, and we made it with 2 weeks to spare. Death March? Oh, yeah. What do you think we're doing to our customers? What do you think we're inflicting on our customers every time we say, oh, you need to update this? Your software is old. Your libraries are old. Oh, come on. It's just a little update. It's only wafer thin. Okay. You figured out why I'm telling you this story. Updating and upgrading is not a painless process. It's not. And we need to be cognizant of that. And if possible, we need to provide better guidance on how people can do this and how they can implement regular updating cycles. And of course, the older the systems are, the more pain is involved. Hopefully you're dealing with companies that don't have to go whole integers in terms of their upgrades. But how many, for even just jQuery libraries, they're using some jQuery 1x. And now we need them to go into a 3x because. So I want you to consider that when you're writing your reports. I want you to think about that because, like I say, this is hard. This is hard stuff. If you've had to migrate stuff just from Python 2 to Python 3, my God, we still have pain over that. And that's a 1 integer upgrade. But what did they do? They completely refactored everything because that's what software creators who are writing these languages, they do. They figure out how to do it better. And now all of that legacy code has to be updated. We need to remember that. We need to have a little empathy for those poor developers. All right, moving on. The other thing that I want you to think about is that for every end-of-life, unpatched, out-of-date system that you find, there is somebody in that company who wants to fix it. And this is something that you can do. You can give them the ammunition they need. Now, what do I mean? Whenever I'm working on a report and I read the report and it's like, you need to fix your stuff. And yeah, there's vulnerabilities. Have a nice life. No, not good enough. I want to know what's the current version that's in use. This is me as a developer reading a pen test report. What ammunition do the people need? They need to know what's the current version in use. What is the most current version that is available? Is the version in use end of life? If so, when did it go end of life? Are there CVEs? Are there published exploits? Include links to those CVEs, to those exploits, to those GitHubs, so that way they can find exactly how horrible this really is and how badly they can get owned. Because they don't know. Because they've never been taught. And when you do that, when you provide, well, okay, the delta between the current version and the version in use and the current version, when you do that, that's actually a shaming technique. It is. Nobody wants to have it thrown in their face that the version of software they're using is 3 integers out of date. But if you bring it up and you shine a big spotlight on it and you say, this is the delta, that actually gives them additional ammunition that they can take to management. When you give them the CVEs, when you give them the exploits and you show how they can get pwned, that gives those people who want to fix this stuff ammunition. And they need that so they can do this. Okay? All right. So that's one problem. Another problem is we suck. We don't suck all the time, but we do suck when we're trying to help people understand why. Why do they need to make things better? So I'm going to tell you another story. Now, from 2009 to 2012, I was the web development manager for a small company, supported software that is used by the Hollywood industry. And one of the projects that I launched, amongst others, was their very first e-commerce website. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I like dialogue. I want to know, what do you need from me? Here's what I need from you. Let's work together. Let's make sure we know what's going on. So I went around to every department to get the scope to find. I went to accounting. I went to customer service. I went to the receptionist. What do you need this e-commerce system to do? And, I made my scope and I had all of the to-dos and I took it to my team and we talked through what is it that we need. And okay, will this solution work? No. Okay, what about that solution? And we acid tested some options. And then we came back and we said, okay, we think this will meet all of our needs and here's how we can tailor it and blah, blah, blah. And we did all of that. And we started development, we did the production and we had it in QA and we invited everyone in the company to pound on it. We gave prizes, you're a gin drinker. Fine. If you find typos, you get a bottle of your favorite gin. You like steak. Find a typo, find something that doesn't work, find an error, anything. I will buy you a steak dinner. I got zero takers. What I did get was the night, not day, the night before we launched, I got a 7-page email from the C-suite person in charge of sales, whatever his title was. And he didn't just send this email to me, he sent it to me and the entire C-suite. And what he did was he said, this is wrong, 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 and this is wrong. At no point did he ever say what he wanted. Fine, it's wrong. Tell me what you want instead. Guess what? We do the same thing to our customers. The recommendations that we give are usually generic, unhelpful, and not focused on the client environment. Now, I understand the liability issue. We have a fine line to walk. But the problem is, if we're not providing useful information to the people on the receiving end of this reports, of course they're going to round file it because it doesn't help them. And the problem is that all of the compliance documentation, anyone here ever tried to read through compliance doc? How many migraine? There are reasons why I drink. Okay. It's not just because of the nightmares that I have. So we have to do better, because the truth is, if we aren't helping to solve the problem, we're part of it. I'm assuming that you all are here listening to me talk because you've already recognized that. Well, guess what? The solution is first recognizing that there is a problem. And because I'm not a jackhole, I'm not a horrible, nasty, awful, malicious person who doesn't like to help people solve problems. That's where we're shifting now. Let's talk about what we can do to change things. So first of all, we've acknowledged the problem does exist. Good. You can't solve something if you don't know it's there. Now, the next thing we need to do is the same thing we do in incident response. Any incident responders in the crowd? Okay. You have the skills. You have everything in your tool chest that you need. Scope out the problem. If you have a specific customer that isn't paying attention, you need to help identify what is the problem? How is the scope? What else can you do? And then you need to look for new and different ways. You got to think outside the box. We're going to talk some more about some practical things, because you know that definition of insanity? If you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and you expect different results, you're insane. So it's time to try something different. And what I want you to do is I want you to remember inclusion has to be part of the solution. And this is part of that dialogue thing. I want to encourage us to do partnership. We need to partner with the people we're trying to help. And one possible spin that we can do is how we market security. I have a word for you. Volvo. Volvo has made a name for themselves as the safest cars on the road. Now, in 1959, an engineer, I'm going to totally murder this name, Niles Boland. He worked for Volvo, and he's the one who invented the 3-point seatbelt design. And he actually developed it, figured out it was better, it was safer, and Volvo shared the designs with every other car manufacturer at the time. By 1966, the National Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act made seatbelts a required features in all American vehicles. So one guy found a better way to do things. His company shared the knowledge, and other people saw the value of it. And because of that, then the United States made it law. One person enabled that change. We need to sell security and safety as a marketing point. This is something that is good for you. It's good for your customers. What do they always see us as loss leaders? Oh, we don't like security because it's a sinkhole. Money goes in and there's no ROI. No. Have them do A/B testing. A/B testing on marketing. Here's version A, here's version B. Which one gets a better result? Which one has a higher conversion rate? Have them do A/B testing of advertisements that mention safety and that don't mention safety, that mention security, that don't mention security. Have them do that. Tell them that this is a way that they can gain customer trust and additional new customers, and that will boost their bottom line and make them more money. Like I said, Volvo, safest cars on the road. Most other cars are pretty safe these days too. The other fact, and this is something I don't have a bullet point for, but little bit of history. Anybody know that in the olden days when cars were first invented, they were horribly difficult to run? Some of them, they had the dual lever things like you still have on forklifts, and others, they had this U-shaped thingy, and you had to go out and crank it to get things started. Nowadays, you can talk to your car and get it to start up. It'll parallel park for yourself. Okay, so we need to market safety, and we need to develop ways to make. We need to develop ways ourselves to make security less painful. How many password managers do you have? I'm currently running 3. And that's even before you get to the MFA. So yeah, we have a lot of work that we can do. Now, another thing we need to do, I mentioned the fact that students are not being taught security. And I know this firsthand, and I know it for a variety of ways. Let's see, I got my associates in 2012, just liberal arts. When I made the decision to switch gears from web development to cybersecurity, part of that process was finally getting around to getting a bachelor's. 27 years, but hey, I got there. And now I'm 2 courses away from finishing my master's. My major, by the way, is cybersecurity. And here's what I know. Universities suck, even in a cybersecurity program. What's the creds that I use to log into lab systems? Admin, password. Sometimes it has an O, sometimes it has a capital. A lot of times it doesn't. Might have a bang. So what I want us to do is I want us to approach colleges and universities. And they are disadvantaged for a bunch of reasons. The process for academia to approve new course material is long and arduous and archaic, because it was developed in like the Middle Ages. The process for approving new course materials really has not changed for hundreds of years. And back then it made sense because it took years for knowledge to evolve. Now, what 5 minutes later, it's obsolete. So we need to approach them and we need to encourage them, because one of the things that is happening is that when they're providing outdated, archaic, unworkable content, they're actually harming their students. Because when those students graduate, they're being given a sheepskin, a piece of paper that professes that they have a certain level of knowledge. I'm here to tell you, I've gone through SANS classes, I've gone through college classes, and I'm spoiled because of the SANS classes, which, they really are drinking from a fire hose. But even with SANS certifications, the certification is not enough without practica. So we need to encourage, especially the programs that have 3-letter agencies approving their programs. I know, I'm in one, right? 3-letter agencies have said that the college I go to has an approved cybersecurity program. Well, you know what? I've tried as a student to get the department head to do an NCL, the National Cyber League for colleges. Try Hack Me, do something in a CTF to help my fellow students learn more of what I know that they actually need in the real world. And I've gotten crickets. There's power in numbers. If enough people go to the colleges and say the same thing, hopefully we can get them to make some changes. It won't happen overnight, but it's like the granny with a little tiny hammer working on a granite mountain. Eventually it's going to be turned to sand. And if enough of us go there, talk to these teachers, professors, and the department heads, changes can happen. Other tactics of change. I talked about CTFs. How about a CTF that goes through every single vulnerability in DVWA? Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be a good thing for a boot camp? I know that esports, Twitch, streamed esports, they had a huge uptake during the pandemic. What could we do to maybe stream CTFs or make them more cool? I know you guys are creative. I know you folks have a lot of creative talent. There have to be ways that we can do this. When we make CTFs cooler, the kids coming in, the teens, the 20-somethings and so on, they're going to see this and they're going to be, wow, I want to be a superstar like the person who just ran that sick command that just popped that show. Oh man, it was so totally awesome, right? We can do that. We also need to approach software companies, and we need to do a couple of things. Now, software companies respond to what they perceive as customer wants and needs. Again, that A/B testing with marketing about security, without it. Once they recognize there's a need and they can see security as a feature, not as a loss leader, then we're going to see companies like these adding it in. Okay, yes, I shamelessly stole this off of the web. But hey, there's some names that I actually like. I mean, heck, if we could just get Microsoft, I know, it's a dream. I have a dream. Or Salesforce. If we can get one of the large companies, they're like lemmings. Get one software developer, one big name software developer to start changing, and they will all fall in line because why? Well, the other guy's doing it, so we should do that too. They're worse in Hollywood. Trust me, I've been in both. Okay. Now, this one is a hard sell, but again, I want us to think outside the box. Once upon a time, I'm sure that somebody told the people at Amazon that infrastructure as a service was an insane idea and it'll never work. They're making bank now, aren't they? We know, whoops, that was not the desired outcome. Oh, well, we know how to correct vulnerabilities. We are already up to our eyeballs in the systems that have these problems anyway. We've already signed the contracts. We have the NDAs. We already know where the problems are. But now, if we are able, instead of writing in, dumping a load and writing out, if we can establish a relationship with the clients that we want to help, and we help them fix their problems, we get to be superheroes. Yes, I know there are liability concerns. Guess what? That is what lawyers are for. And I want to throw this out. I know, let's see, little companies, there's one that has like, somebody from the movie Sneakers and somebody from the Batman movie, and their name has those two elements, and they're already doing mitigation as a service. And that company you may have heard of, BHIS, we're doing something involving a security operations center for customers that can't afford to set one up for themselves. Why can't we be like lawyers? Lawyers go on retainer. Why can't we do that? I don't know exactly how this plans out. You guys know more than I do. I'm pleading with you. You are my brain trust. We can do this. Mitigation as a service. Would that or would that not change the dynamic? Now, here's something that has nothing to do with code. It has to do with attitude. You need to share your passion and your fears. Now, cybersecurity draws heavily from the military. You don't believe me? Look at our terminology: engagement, threat surface, attack vector. Right? Okay. We've inherited other things. Never show weakness, not to your friends, not to your enemies. If you look human, you're a target, you're a potential victim. I'd like to suggest that maybe that isn't serving us anymore. Yes, I acknowledge there are times where that has to be maintained, but there are also times where we need to tell people that we have nightmares and we need to open up about why we do what we do. Anybody here have like an elderly grandparent who's on a fixed income? Okay. Do you live in fear that someone is going to brute force her weak password because, it's probably the name of her favorite grandchild or her really obnoxious chihuahua who's really yappy, and someone is going to brute force her weak password and they're going to get into her savings account and they're going to wipe her out. And then she's going to either have to live on the street or move in with you, or, dogs and cats living together. It's going to be horrible. This is a real fear. What about you parents? If you're a parent and you're in this business, I know for a fact you live in terror that your child is going to get trafficked or worse. Those are the things we need to start sharing with the people we want to help. And the reason is very simple. It builds a point for dialogue. It helps them see that we aren't the enemy. And it also helps them to see the depth and validity of your commitment to help them, because they have grandparents and they have children. They're not going to know if we don't tell them. And if we continue doing business as usual, the needle's never going to move. Other things to do. Okay, yeah, you can do the regular thing, invite a developer to coffee, lunch, dinner, snacks. I don't care, whatever. You can also invite them to things like this. Invite them to come to to cybersecurity cons. Invite them to come to hacker cons. Ooh, if you want to see how to make your code even better, you need to go to this really cool convention. You need to talk to this person who is a wizard with SSH. And again, how are you presenting it? Oh, I'm going to go hang out with my tribe and we're going to, as soon as you lapse into technobabble that they don't understand, they're going to shut off, eyes glazed, deer in the headlights. It's all over. But get them to come here. Find that common ground. Find what matters to them and tie it into something at an event like this and encourage them to show up. And who knows, they might even get bitten by the bug. And above all, share your story. Is the classic thing. What am I going to talk about? Speak your truth. Tell your story. And this is the stuff that you do after the meeting, not when you're in the ROE, but there are opportunities. We BS with people all the time. Find those opportunities. Change the equation. We cannot control our customers or clients. We cannot control the people we're trying to help. We cannot control what other people choose to do. But we can control what we do. Change one side of the equation and the whole thing changes. And here's the thing. This is what I know about this community. I have been in some flavor of information technology since the early 1990s. And this community is the most dedicated, driven, talented, determined, and giving group of people I have ever known. Ever. In nearly 60 years on this planet. And I'm talking deep commitment, not just in our careers. I know that some of you work in search and rescue. Some of you raise animals that are going to be helper animals to help the handicapped or help other people who need that assistance. You do other things because that's who you are. You are committed to helping others. And this is the other thing that I know. Together, we can change the world. I cannot do it. I can't. I'm not that strong. I'm not that smart. I'm not that capable. But I know that this community can. And I hope that you will join me in making that attempt. Questions? Anyone? All right. I'm here all week. Come and see me. Let's have a drink together. Let's figure out how to change the world.